The honourable member for Parkland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my honourable colleague for sharing her experiences from her constituents in this very important debate. This past fall, I had the opportunity to sit on the Environment Committee where we explored the devastation following the fire in Jasper National Park this past summer. And one thing that I was quite struck by was the numerous testimonies we heard from Indigenous groups who talked about the history of areas like Jasper National Park, which don't look like the Jasper National Park that I grew up with. In fact, the wide swaths of lodgepole pine that we've seen in Jasper National Park is actually not natural, according to Indigenous oral histories, that it was much more grasslands before Parks Canada moved in and brought in fire suppression. And that the witnesses had told us that if we had explored more Indigenous ways of managing fires, that we could really more effectively mitigate a lot of these fires that we're seeing in the country. I wonder if the member had any comments on that and any thoughts she wanted to share with the House. Thank you.
Honourable member for Nunavut.
Uqaqtittiji, and I thank the member for his great question. Because I do always, when I was at INAN, one of the first things I always wanted to ensure we did in our reports of our studies is remind parliamentarians that Indigenous peoples had been in Canada before Canada was created, since time immemorial. Before colonialism, First Nations and Inuit were taking care of these lands using their practices, and we during our management of it, there weren't as many disasters as we see now. So ensuring that with our decision making as parliamentarians and the guidance that we give to bureaucrats in the national work that is done to implement other activities in international law, we always need to make sure that we are using Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous traditional knowledge in the same way that science is being used, because Indigenous knowledge is science, and we need to make sure that decision making is based on Indigenous expertise that we've had since time immemorial.